Welcome to season 3, episode 4 of the Me and ADHD podcast. In today's episode, I'm having a conversation about ADHD and the things you don't see. And here today with me is fellow ADHDer Gemma-Louise Tranter. Welcome, Gemma.
Hi,
You all
thank
right?
you. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Very well indeed. Thank you for joining us. Much appreciated, and to share your story as well.
It's a pleasure to be talking to you and just to get some, information and awareness out there from a female's perspective, especially.
That's what it's all about, which is great.
Yeah.
So going back then for yourself, when were you diagnosed?
My diagnosis is a bit of a weird one. So I was diagnosed some time ago by a private psychiatrist. Left it at that. I'd got the documents, I'd got a diagnosis, and then, like, I wasn't medicated or nothing like that.
Yeah.
When I started my most recent job, I was really struggling, so I went back to the GP and I said, look, I've got an ADHD diagnosis. I'm not coping with my job. It was a sit down, answer calls on the computer job. And he was like, okay. It got me to fill these forms out. He says, I am satisfied that you have got ADHD, so I will prescribe medication. However, the diagnosis that you have is not accepted by the NHS, so we do need to go through another diagnosis. And we also think you may have autism. So I was like, okay. So although I am diagnosed, technically, if you go by NHS standards, it's not a full diagnosis. It's a bit strange.
Okay. When was this recent?
Yeah, it
Oh,
was about two. I got the diagnosis from the psychiatrist about 2 years ago. But it was just somebody I knew, like a friend of a friend's, and because it was just one private psychiatrist, he was happy he filled the forms out. Um, but the NHS were like, no, we're not happy with that. We want to do our own diagnosis.
right. Okay. Which
Yeah.
just makes things a lot harder for us,
It
really.
does, but I do know how lucky I am to be offered the medication because I know so many people struggle without medication.
Yeah.
But because the GP was so um like the forms that is it called an ASR form, the initial forms they get you to tick the
Oh,
boxes,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
every single one. It was like, yep, I'm happy. We can start you on meds. I was like, okay.
Oh, fair play. Well, that's good. I mean, that's good that you're where you are right now,
Yeah.
and you've got access to the medication, and the medications are working for you, or was working for you.
Yeah, it is. It's changed my life. It really has changed my life. I I don't think I'd still be in my job now if it wasn't for the medication. I think for me, everything affected me, everything had a toll on my mental health. I was stressed out and anxious. And now, like somebody at work said to me last week, you are like a completely different person. You're so calm. You just crack on and do it. And I've never been like that. Not through like not wanting to, but you can't help when something affects your mental health, can you? And you can't help being
Yeah.
upset by certain things.
Yeah. It can be really hard, especially when you don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
Um. So, so I mean, so beforehand, were you struggling throughout your life, or
yeah. But then I was. I mean, at the age of about 12, a GP put me on beta blockers for panic attacks. And then I was put on sertraline for anxiety. My life was pretty much stop being so dramatic, stop overthinking it, stop over analysing everything, just chill out. And I thought that was my anxiety. I mean, I'm 39 years old, like all my life, you've got anxiety, you overthink, you have panic attacks. And in actual fact, it wasn't that, it was ADHD. And to me, that's mind blowing that you can go your whole life with this diagnosis, and GPs are so quick to diagnose anxiety.
yeah,
I'm having the same issue with my own daughter at the moment. She's 16 and she's really struggled with anxiety, and she's so like me. She is so like me. I can tell when she's going through a burnout. Um, but it's took years. for them to finally recognise it. I'm like, look, I have ADHD. My daughter is 5 times more likely to have ADHD, but at the moment she's on anxiety medication because that's what she's presenting. You know,
It's hard because you go through life being diagnosed with, a lot of the time, not all the time, but you're diagnosed with a symptom rather than an actual, the real diagnosis. So we
yeah,
go
like the
along with
core.
the, yeah. So, a lot of people, late diagnosed, are depressed and anxious. That's your diagnosis, but actually it's a kind of a symptom of the
Yeah,
actual real diagnosis.
absolutely.
Um, so when you got diagnosed, I mean, what did you know about ADHD? Is it like your stereotypical things that people think at the moment, or
The bouncing off the walls.
yeah,
I worked in secondary schools for years, and I only ever really saw ADHD in that sense. So for me, I am a bit fidgety and hyper and impulsive, but my ADHD is in my head. It's a hyperactivity in my brain. So no, I didn't know that was ADHD. I was led to believe that's overthinking, that's overanalyzing, that's panicking. That's not ADHD because ADHD is being hyper, and people don't see what goes in here.
yeah, no, they don't. I mean, when we get assessed, we mainly get assessed for the hyperactivity, the impulsivity, the not being able to focus very well, and it's usually or mainly from another person's perspective. So, what
Yeah,
do other people say? And you get information from your parents and the school and things like that and friends. So it's about what they think as well. But you never really get diagnosed or assessed going on how you felt about everything, how you
yeah,
dealt with it, what your life was like for you inside.
absolutely.
I don't, you know, I I struggled with kind of not understanding why I couldn't think like everybody else. I couldn't take in information like everybody else.
Yeah,
I couldn't describe it as being, inattentive or anything like that. So I can only, how it made me feel was really down and alone, and I don't fit in. I'm broken, and that's all the things you, they don't go into depth with an assessment.
no, and we spoke about this before in regards to like I have never been able to read a book ever.
Mm.
And we did speak about this briefly before, and I was
Yeah.
like, to me, it's insane that I can now read. You know,
Yes.
I remember every year I go on holiday and I take a book with me, and I'm like, I'm going to read this book. I'm going to sit by the pool and read this book. And all I'd ever do is read the first page a million times, and I'd still forget what was said in the first page. But now it's like my brain can retain the information, and to me, that is wild.
It is. Yeah. It's for when I got the medication, I always thought, all right, I'll have the medication because these are the things that I want to deal with my life, and being able to read was, yeah, one of the things I wanted to do, but it wasn't a high priority. I'm in my
Yeah,
50s, whatever. But I got the medication, got to the right dosage, and then I found I could read. I could actually just read and remember. I used to get stuck in every line or every couple of words. I used to go back, and
yeah,
it's just horrible. Back and read and remember what I've read, and it's just actually this is huge for me. This is a really big thing. I didn't know it was going to be a big thing because I've never been able to read. So it's not,
yeah.
it's
It's
not,
mind
that's,
blowing, isn't it?
yeah. And now I've just finished my sixth book, I think.
Wow.
So, but I've got to do it at certain times of the day because when the meds wear off in the evenings, I can't read in the evenings because, the meds
Yeah,
aren't in my system then. So, but yeah, it can or play a profound role in your life.
yeah,
You know.
absolutely.
So what are the other sort of presentations do you have then, apart from the impulsivity or the things that other people can see and very obvious? What else do you go through?
Yeah, I guess for me, um, I've always struggled with friend groups. in the sense that, and I guess it's my fault. I think over the years I have pushed people away because something will happen, there'll be some sort of social interaction, and I'll read it in a way that it wasn't presented, and then I will lock myself away and isolate myself. For me, it's that fear of abandonment, that rejection sensitivity, small fear that we have. It's, like one social interaction can change my mood for the whole day, whereas a neurotypical person will just brush it off as nothing. I can't do that. And it's not through lack of trying. Um, it's things like I have started so many courses over the years, and I'll get really into them and I'm like, yes, I'm going to smash this out. And I'll smash out the first 6 months and it's like, now I'm bored now. I'm bored. And that my house, every room in my house is half decorated because I have these grand ideas that I have to run with. And then before it's finished, I'm bored. Um, the anxiety, the health anxiety. I'm better now on medication, but it's like a little thing can be like this huge, enormous thing and just completely overtake my mind. The racing thoughts that I'm so bad with money. I have to spend money. I have to, like, it's like I need to do this. And that's not healthy at all. But I do think the majority of my ADHD is in my head. It's the racing thoughts, the overthinking, the like, what if this, what if that, like, what are they saying about me? Do they not like me? Like, what? And yeah, it can be exhausting.
Very exhausting. So it's very hard. I've always said it's very hard to explain the RSD aspect
Yeah,
because a lot of the time, well, in my case, a lot of the time, it's over the really little things. It's not the arguments that you've had or getting a dressing down at work or things like that. It's the minor little things in life that
yeah.
shouldn't mean anything to
Tone,
anyone.
yeah, the
Yeah,
tone in somebody's voice,
yeah, things like that. The lack of a smile or the lack of the usual smile
or
or the
one
usual
less kiss on a
greeting.
message. I'm like, why is that bothering me?
Yeah. When they
I think,
when they accidentally send you an okay, but in capital letters,
or
and
a
it's like,
K, or a
oh,
thumbs up. I think
what
for
have I
me
done
as
wrong?
Yeah, I think for me as well, it's taken me a long time to realize it, but it's gone into relationships. So I have stayed in so many relationships that don't serve me because I hold on to breadcrumbs because I want to believe this person. Um, a bit like not in the right context of this conversation, but from being a kid, I've always had this really deep fear of dying alone. Like, nobody will love me. I'm going to die alone on my own. And that is the ADHD and the RSD, and I know that now. But in relationships, that can display in the way that you will stay in a relationship and you will hold on to breadcrumbs and you will stay there with something that doesn't serve you because you're that scared to be rejected or to be alone. And I think that is one of the big things for me, and that takes a long, long time to unlearn and to realize, actually, no, I deserve better. And that, yeah, that as well.
And that in itself, holding on to a relationship that isn't right for you can add a lot more, struggles and
Yeah,
issues into your life. So
absolutely.
there's so many things that people don't understand. Do you think there's still an issue out there socially with people not understanding that there's more to ADHD?
Absolutely. I think I was going to say women, but I'm going to change it now to inattentiveness, the non-stereotypical type of ADHD that a lot of females experience because we don't present the way that men present. We don't bounce off the walls. We're not typically hyper. People see the fun me. I always say that I describe myself as a massive bellend. I'm so sarcastic. I'm so funny, but they don't see what goes in here. And that is the same for a lot of females. They're not hyper, they can't focus. My daughter, like, she will say things like, Mom, I just want to be normal. People, she'll have a deadline. and she'll be really worried about this deadline, and she'll want to do really well. And she's like, Mum, you'd think that that would motivate me to do it. She says, but no matter what I do, I can't concentrate, I can't focus, I feel so pathetic and worthless. Nothing's good enough, the constant, nobody likes me, everybody hates me, what are they saying about me? That's ADHD, and that is so like not heard of, and I think that needs to change.
It does. It does because that's huge. It's a
Mm,
huge thing. It's a huge barrier to getting on in life because they're the
absolutely.
things that crush you.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the main symptoms or the main, I guess, criteria for assessment and diagnosis aren't the real issues.
No.
You know, it's it's the things that are created because of those that are the problems. You know,
Yeah.
with my mind right now, if I wasn't talking to you, was going all over the place. It's not a problem. It's only a
Yeah.
problem if I have to get something done, if I have to remember something, if I have to listen to someone. And when I struggle with that, when anyone else struggles with that, then there causes issues with, be it the RSD, with the low self worth, self loathing, the depression, the anxiety. That's all the issues that it creates, and that's all the things that we massively struggle with.
Yeah,
Um, you know,
definitely.
and then
And we're
people,
told, to chill out. Just chill out, just stop overthinking. Just, you're just being extra. But what people don't realise, they see the fun side of ADHD. They see the being distracted by shiny objects, the being hyper, being impulsive, wanting to go on random day trips and with no thoughts. And yeah, that's all good and well, but they don't see what goes on in here. And that is, for me, that is what can be debilitating. That's what takes over my life and
yeah.
has caused so many issues. And
Do
it's
you, do you,
just anxiety, isn't it? It's just anxiety. Just put somebody on anxiety medication, and that's,
yeah.
you
It,
know,
it is hard to explain everything
it
to
really
people.
is. It
You know.
really is, because it's in your brain, isn't it? Um, because I remember when I started meds, the first day I took meds was at work. I worked for the NHS, so although it sounds silly, I felt safer taking the meds at work than at home,
Okay.
because there was a room full of clinicians. So I thought, right, if anything happens, I'm safe. Um, and I went outside and had this massive panic attack. And the reason for it was my brain was quiet. I sat there and the sun was shining, and my mind was empty. And I was like, what's going on? I don't know this. And it shocked me, because that had never been the case in my life. Ever, ever, ever. Never was my brain not concocting a plan. Not, normally there's three different voices, a song playing in the background, and what do I need to do next? And it went from that to just nothing, and it was so strange.
It's I hear a lot of that um, with people going on medication and they have a clear head for the first time.
Yeah.
I unfortunately haven't had that.
Oh
It's
no.
it's quieter. It's definitely quieter, um, and I can tell the difference. But it's not just you know
Wow.
cleared. There's
Okay.
always something going on. I guess in a way it's easier. I find it easier to override it. So like with a
Yeah.
reading, I can read now, which is great. I mean, I'll still have to have the room fairly quiet. If everyone is making a lot of noise, I'm not going to be able to, be able to
Well,
concentrate and focus. But
this is what's crazy for me. I work in a call center, so you can imagine how noisy it is. I can read in a call center. And I'm like, wow. Like previously, my first week there, I was having so many meltdowns because I couldn't deal with the noise of hearing people talk. They got me these noise cancelling headphones, and I could still, I was having breakdowns. And then I just remember the one day I sat there without the headphones on, reading this book, and I was like, whoa, what is this?
it just goes to show how much of a huge difference medication can make. It's not for
Yeah,
everyone, it doesn't work for everyone, and side effects and all that. Um, and how much they work for people will vary. Just like our heads is
yeah,
different what it does for you and me. But it can still make a massive difference in your life.
definitely. I think a lot of people, from what I've seen on social media, they will take it for a day. They don't like it, so they never take it again.
Hmm.
If I'd have done that for the first week, I wouldn't be where I am today. You have to ride out the bad sometimes and give things a chance to settle.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did, because I remember getting to about day 3 and I'm like, nah, can't take this anymore. And then I spoke to one of our clinicians who is a mental health nurse, and he gave me some really good advice. He said, look at you. He said, look, you just sat there and you're working. It is having some really, really good side effects. Yes, there's bad, but you need to give it time, because obviously with ADHD, it is the dopamine in your brain. It goes too high and too low. There's no middle ground, is there? And with I just trying to get the right words. I was in the same mood all day, and that's something I've never ever had. Like, I was in a pretty consistent mood all day, every day, and a lot of things just bounced off me. Whereas previously, I never would have been able to let them bounce off me.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I just think that people should give things a chance, rather than first day, quiet mind, don't like it, never take it again, because it really can be life changing.
Yeah. No, it can be. I mean, I say you got to let everything settle down. I think it's always good to have. Well, I think I kind of these are the things I want it to change and to help before I start medication. These are the areas that I really struggle with in my life. So
Yeah,
this is what I want to, correct with the medication. That was my kind of like thought process right at the very beginning, and I didn't really know much about anything then. Um, and then luckily it did. But when I've changed medication, I always go back to right those things that I want, sort of help with and support with. Is this medication that I'm on now doing as good as the other medication did? I had to stop because
yes,
of blood pressure and things like that. But it's kind of so I always kind of like have something to look at. How is it helping me?
yeah. The
Um,
goals, they say, don't they?
yeah,
You need, a lot of people say that you need to be doing what your plan. So when your medication hits, you need to have started what the plan is for the day, because if you don't and you just sat doom scrolling, that is what you will do all day.
yeah, yeah. You. I find with the medication, it helps me get into the right mindset and the ability to put sort of strategies and things like that into place.
Yeah,
And then when I find if I'm off the medication, which I was for a while, those strategies were still in place, and I could cope with certain things better because those things were in place. You can't just do the medication. That's it. You got to put things in place to help you as well.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
without the medication, I can't put things in place. I can't think right. I can't finish the task. I can't do anything really. But with the medication, I can put those things into place. And then when they're in place, it's quite kind of simple to keep following in most cases for what I want and what I need.
Yeah, no,
Everyone is
I
different. Everyone's
agree.
life is different. It's like when I get very overstimulated, which I didn't know what the issue was beforehand at home, but because of the medication, I was allowed to then read up and kind of understand myself better because I couldn't read before, so I wouldn't remember
Yeah,
anything that I was sort of
yeah,
reading. And then the simple thing I do is like the noise cancelling headphones I put on. I have at home. They follow me around all the time. So when I need them, I put them on. But without the medication, I wouldn't have got to that stage,
yeah,
and I would always struggle in that stage. So that simple little thing, medication allowed me to put in and get used to doing. So that is something that I have at home all the time now. So that overstimulation issue isn't so much of an issue anymore.
yeah. No, I get that. I agree. I think I've done things without realizing what it's just little things that I've put into place since I've been on meds, and I never actually had the realization that it's because of the meds. But now you're saying that, um, such as everything now goes into my Google Calendar, everything,
Yep.
reminders. I have certain days where I do certain things. My issue prior to medication was I take the gym, for example. Like, I do go to the gym. I'd go 6 days a week for 2 weeks, and then I'm like, I'm exhausted now, and then I wouldn't go for a month. Now I've got into the routine. I can listen to my body now. I can, right, I'm going to go 4 times this week, and then I need to rest on this day. And then I want to do it the same. And it's the consistency of things that I'm able to have. Whereas previous to medication, I would just run myself to the ground.
Yeah, because we struggle with that inconsistency.
Yeah,
It's just we can't keep on doing the same thing over and over again. Although we might need to, it's hard to keep that going, and
yeah,
it's
that
again one of those
that
things
is
that
true.
people don't understand.
No, like with jobs, I think I've had a job every single year since I've been 16 years old because I love it. I hyper focus into it. I want to know everything about it. And then it's like I'm bored now and I have to get out. Have to. It's almost like it starts to affect my mental health and I hate it and I'm down all the time. And my whole life has been like that. But now, I mean, I could have a better job, but I'm going to university in September, so I know that I can stick it out till then. Yeah, it's a bit repetitive, but I'm able to do it, whereas I wasn't able to do things like that previously.
Yeah, yeah. It's the job thing is kind of a real classic trait for for
Yeah.
ADHDers. Whereas, because yeah, like I said, you get bored. There's certain things it will be great for a while. That it's fun, it's new. That dopamine is flowing. It's just great. I love
Yeah.
it. And then bit by bit, things start to change a lot quicker for us than most
Yeah.
other people. And then when you get to the point where either it's either boring or you're just kind of like overwhelmed with lots of things because you can't keep up with the workload and things like that. Everything gets on top of you. Right, somewhere else. Got
Yeah.
to go. And it's
But
hard to stick it out.
it is, but then it's sad really because if we were able to stay in a job long term, just think of the progress, the promotions that we've potentially missed through our ADHD,
Yeah,
you know. Um, because ultimately, if you were to stay in the job for 10 years, you'd get a lot further up the ladder than you would if you were to stay a year.
yeah, yeah.
But it's not as easy as that, and people don't understand that, do they? Don't understand what it feels like.
I know. I know. I I look at when I used to manage health clubs, and I stayed a personal trainer and the instructor for such a long time, where people that already knew who were, I guess, came later into fitness than I did, and they've gone to like regional managers, and they're doing all this, they're high
Wow.
flying, and I'm like, I just, I just can't. I just that's not. I used to convince myself it's not me because I just love doing this instead, and this is where I want to be. But in reality, this is what I know, and it's the only thing that I know. I don't know anything else. My education is rubbish because I couldn't concentrate at school, and
Yeah.
fitness, for whatever reason, was the only subject that I've been able to intake and understand and utilize, and it was great. And I was very scared of coming away from that. Um, I did eventually, but then everything just got overwhelming, and I moved jobs all the time. I moved around the
Mm.
country, a lot of
Wow.
jobs. I think I had 19 all in the fitness industry. So I think out of the 28 years I was in it, I think like 19 different companies, and I
Wow.
moved every single time. So I moved house and all that as well. Um, so yeah, so it was all great for a while. Then no, this is too much. This is
Yeah.
literally too much.
Yeah.
So I had the overwhelm. You got the bore, but like I said, the boring. People don't understand the boring thing. It's not just boring.
No.
You know, it's it's
It's a
very
mental thing, isn't it?
yeah, it's a very special type of boring.
Yeah.
You just can't cope. It's just so hard to carry on. It's so boring. It's just
I describe it in the way of, like, to a neurotypical person, I'll say, imagine being in a packing line or doing data input and you're doing the same thing over 100 times a day. Imagine that level of boredom for you, because that is what my brain feels like doing this job. Um, and the way that it affects your mental health, it's like it's debilitating. it really is debilitating. And people, it's hard to explain something to somebody that no matter what words you use, like we can try, and I do try, but unless you've experienced it yourself, it's really difficult, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I always used to get stuck on RSD trying to explain that. Even now,
Yeah,
to be fair, I always said that even now I know what it is, and I can cope with it a little bit better now. I'm on medication, I got diagnosed and everything, but it's still there. But even
yeah,
now, explaining it to someone, it still sounds pretty stupid.
yeah. It
You know?
sounds like, you're I'm trying to think of the right words. I mean, if ever I try to explain it, all I get back is just stop overthinking it. Like, do you not understand? Do you not think that's what I want to do? Do you think I enjoy this? Just stop overthinking it, just stop being extra, But like with me, the RSD, there was a period in my life where it did take over my life, and God, I've used dating sites on and off for years. Not now, like I can't be bothered now, like whatever. But it was like an obsession. I need to find someone. I have to find someone, and I'd spend hours on them, and I'd agree to dates and stuff where I'm like, no, this person's not for me, but I need to because I can't be alone. And it
Yeah.
was debilitating. And like I said, with relationships, I've stayed in for longer than I should have. Um, but now, although I do feel those things, it's not, I compartmentalize it in a way where I can have the feelings but not act on them
Yeah.
and not put myself in situations that aren't good for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No. No. Absolutely. There's no cure for ADHD. You know, strategies that you can put in place, and the medication you can have, and the knowledge and the self awareness, all those things you need to kind of like do and utilize as much as you can, but they don't stop it.
No.
They just help you cope. They help you um, focus a little bit more on what needs to be done, and you can. I still get overwhelmed, but it takes me longer to get there.
Yes.
You know, when my medication wears off, it comes. It's back again. So because it
Yeah.
hasn't gone, so all of that helps. It doesn't get rid of it, and you still have
No.
the good days and you still have the bad days. Sometimes the medication doesn't quite touch the edges where you want it to, and then sometimes it's brilliant. Um,
Yeah, it doesn't make sense in my head that like I went through a whole week and it wasn't working, and I was like to GP, we need to increase the dose. And then the next week it was like bam. And I'm like, what? What what's that all about? It's really strange.
I wish I knew. I wish I knew. It is a weird thing, but like I said, it doesn't cure. There is no cure. It's just it is what it is. But it's just utilizing as many things as possible to help support yourself.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
self awareness is a huge thing as well. You need to know what's going on and what it's all about, and the triggers, and and what you can do about it, and when it's happening. And
It can
but
take years, can't it, to know
yeah,
what your triggers are?
yeah,
Years and years. I mean, one for me has always been noisy eating. Oh, it makes me so angry. I can't. Previous to meds, there's no way I could eat in the same room as my children. I just couldn't. I'd make an excuse and leave. Now, if somebody's eating noisily by me, it still irritates me. But if it's like before 2 p.m., I can just about tolerate it. Whereas previous, I'd have snapped, I'd have walked out the room. It's one of those, I just can't cope with it.
yeah.
But I do know when the meds are working because I'm able to tolerate them eating a little in the house, whereas before, not a chance.
It is. It is when you start to look at things, you start to, because most generally people don't analyze themselves. You just crack on, and if you can't cope with something, you can't cope with it. You just make up a reason and then just move on. But when you get sort of diagnosed, or you're struggling through a lot of things, and then you come to the you know oh yes, it could be ADHD, or you've been diagnosed, and you then have to analyze your life.
Yeah,
So you go from not mentioning things, or mention it, and just in passing, oh, I just can't think very well, my memory's a bit rubbish, to actually going more into it and explaining, is you're talking about your working memory. You're talking about the RSD, and the executive dysfunction, all using all these terminologies that you never used before, but you only know them now because you've done so much research and you've had to do the research to try and find out about yourself and to support yourself through all these things that people don't realize that you're going through. No one else
No,
is
and
helping you.
no, and I do think that it almost feels like a mourning period. It did for me. Because I was like, I've gone through life. This was me, and then out of nowhere, some of the this was me is no longer there, and I'm like, okay, now what is my personality,
Yeah.
and what is my ADHD? And I think it's so important to take that time just to get to know yourself and what your triggers are, what you present as, how you can help manage those things. um I do. I think it's really, really important for people to, you know, it really is like mourning your past self and then starting again almost.
Yeah. 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 No, I get that because you've got the new knowledge is like having a new self because it's the new knowledge of yourself, and then now you've got to work out what to do now, how to go about what is the real you now.
What do I enjoy?
Yeah.
What,
What do you actually enjoy?
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, that's not spending money or being
this is it.
impulsive.
Yeah. You know,
You
I think
know,
once you do that, it helps so much.
yeah,
You know,
definitely.
some people I don't know are lucky enough to just naturally put coping sort of mechanisms in place, um, whether they realize it or not, or whether they realize it as a coping mechanism or it's just something that they just needed to do, but I don't know why.
Mm.
But which is great, and I did that for a few things, but there's not a lot of people out there who have benefited from doing that because they've just struggled through everything, you know, um, and haven't been able to because of the support or education or the environment around them. They've just had nothing, and they've had nothing put in place whatsoever, and they've got to their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s
It's
in a
really
really
sad,
bad
isn't it?
place. Yeah,
Yeah, it's really, really sad. I think for me, like, I am naturally a fixer. um I think it's just the way I was brought up, that whole 70s, 80s, 90s kids, if you don't stop crying, I'll give you something to cry about. You need to toughen up, just get on with it, stop feeling sorry for yourself. So for me, and this is something I need to work on, I could be more compassionate. I struggle when people just sit there and wallow when there's strategies out there to help. I
yeah.
just kind of think, you can either sit down and moan about it or you can do something about it. And that is me. And I know that comes across as heartless. And I know there's exceptional circumstances, but I refuse to just lie down and wallow in self-pity. I just couldn't be that person. It's not who I am.
Well, no, which is great. I mean, there are you could argue, well, how could you be like that? Maybe you aren't going through things that I'm going through then. But on the flip side of that, I want to do what you do.
Yeah.
I want that. I want that. I want to just crack on. I want to, come out of this self pity. I want, that's what I really want. So that you've got that, which is awesome because that's something that helps you as well. That is whether you call it a coping mechanism, I don't know, but that is something in your life which is you, which is naturally you, that's gonna help you through all this, which is brilliant.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm not completely heartless. I do get
I
it. I
don't, yeah,
do
I
I
didn't say
do
you were
get why
heartless.
people are like that, but for me, just to share a little bit of background, my mom died unexpectedly a few years ago. Out of the blue, she was 53 years old. My children spent more time with my mom than they did me. She was the second parent. And I couldn't break because if I broke, my kids broke, and that was not an option. And now that that has happened, well, nothing worse can happen. The worst things happened. So anything else, it's like just get off your ass and stop wallowing. And obviously, I have days, I have down days, but I will always get to that point now, enough now, snap out of it. And it's because that happened, because the worst has happened, that in my brain, I've been through the worst. So when, and that, I think that is why it's through trauma, isn't it? We're shaped by our trauma, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, absolutely. And it's one of those things like those. I mean, it's like me saying it's great for you to be able to do that, and I honestly do think it is a good thing, and I would like to be able to do that as well. But where it comes from is not a great place, you
Yeah.
know. Um, but no, yeah, your surroundings, your environment will have a massive effect on your presentation, your ADHD presentations. It will shape your life, you know. Things that happen you in the past um, have a massive effect,
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
and they all make you who you are. And I always say everyone has a story. You just don't
Yes.
know it yet, you know, unless you get to talk to them and get to know them. You don't know it yet. So, you know, you're not heartless. You know, you were you. You're doing what you need to do to crack
To
on.
survive, yeah,
Yeah,
to survive.
absolutely. And then
Yeah.
if everyone looks at themselves, they will find there are certain aspects of their life that they have that as well. With me, it's my son. My son is ADHD, and just like a lot of parents of same children, there's a fight for the education support,
Yeah.
you know, and I got battered by that, completely out of my comfort zone. I'm a stay-at-home dad, so I dealt with a lot of that and talking to the teacher. I don't like talking to people.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not very confident in that way, um, and I got absolutely battered. But it got to the point where things got so rough and so out of hand. Now no one tells me about how to, you know, educate or how to support my son. You know,
That's good.
there's that, you know, flick of the switch. Now, man, there's self doubt all the way along. There's self doubt with me through everything in my life, apart from how to support our son.
That's
Um, I,
fantastic, though.
and because of everything that we went through with his education, he's in a specialist sports school, support school now, which is awesome. Um, but before it was like, oh, God, this is not good. We're not very good. We're blamed, parent blame, student blame, all the rest. But now, no, no one tells us now. No one, no one.
Yeah,
But you can get to that point, and it can change you.
it can. I think for me, like I've pretty much always been a single parent to three children. So I've never, I can't break, I can't fall apart, I can't spend a week in bed. There's not an option there because if my children see me fall apart, they fall apart, and what then? There's nobody to pick us up. There's nobody coming in to save us. And obviously I have down days, and obviously I've got empathy and feel bad for people like what they're going through, their stories. Um, but that's not an option for me. I can't fall apart. And maybe that's through things that have happened in my life that have hardened me, or maybe that's me. I don't know. But I do know that it's just not, it's never been an option. Never. Like I said, there's nobody swooping in to save us. It's me or nobody, that I'm all they've got.
Yeah,
And that's always been the case.
it's your story. It's your journey. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You know,
Yeah.
you do you because that's what you have to do. And naturally, through time, through education, through experience, things will change. Be it get more like that or less like that or stay the same, whatever things, you know. But you've got to remember that you are on your own journey. No one else is.
Yeah.
I can't sit here and tell you how you should be and how you shouldn't be, and no one else can either. You know.
No, it's true.
But this is why we have these conversations. It's finding out about you and your journey. You know, and it's great when we can relate. And there's a lot of things that are completely different, and there will be.
Yeah.
But you know, this is my journey. This is your journey, and I'm not walking in your shoes. To
Nobody is, are they?
no
We've
no
all
one
got
is.
our own individual struggles.
Yeah.
And I do think that those struggles and that trauma, it does shape who we are
Yeah.
in one way or another. It has to. It's what makes us who we are. If we all live the same life, if we were robots with no free will, you know, we
Yeah.
would be robots with no free will. Like, there's just no,
But
there's, we've all got our own stories, we've all got our own trauma. And I think I was going to say that's a good thing, but I mean that in the sense of we're all individuals with our own story and our own lives, and
yeah.
we live life differently. And that's what makes humanity the way that it is.
Yeah. And they just need more acceptance of that, you know. It's more knowledge is helpful as well, obviously, but acceptance is the key.
Yeah.
You know, if you accept how people are, that's that's huge. If people accept you for your struggles, they don't need to know why you struggle, but if you're struggling, if they accept that and they can try and help to support you, brilliant. If they know about it and they've got the knowledge and things like that, excellent. But it's about the acceptance,
It is.
you
And I
know.
think that's what a lot of people with ADHD struggle with. We're not accepted because we're too much. Just calm down, chill out, stop being so dramatic, stop overthinking everything. Just sit down, just work. And it's like, do they not realize that that is what we want more than anything in this world, just to be able to do those things?
Yeah, yeah. It's like telling someone to concentrate more and try harder is.
Yeah,
It's like telling someone to, who wears glasses, to take the glasses off and just try and focus better on what they're looking
yeah,
at. It's not going to
yeah.
happen. As much as I
No,
will try, it's not going to happen.
no.
Um, so the coping mechanism for me to focus on something on a in a distance is to wear these.
Yeah,
It doesn't cure my eyesight, okay? Because take them off and now I can't see you. Yeah, you're
yeah.
blurred, but put them on and now it helps. So it's the same as that, you
It
know.
is. It
And
is.
it
That's a
isn't
good analogy.
and it isn't just the I guess the mental health or the psychological struggles that we have. I mean, we have physical struggles as well. We can have physical. I mean, looking at some stuff today in ADHD UK Adult UK website says ADHDers are more likely to have physical health conditions such as high blood pressure, high cholesterol, obesity, insomnia, sleep apnea, restless leg syndrome, migraines, hyperflexibility, or Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Don't know if I said that correctly.
Oh, what
IBS.
is that? Is that something to do with the blood, isn't it?
Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is about the hyperflexibility, but to an extreme. But it affects the connective tissues and things like that as well. I don't know much about it. I've got to be honest though. IBS, gastroesophageal reflux disease, constipation, chronic pain, hypothyroidism. There's a lot going
Wow.
on there. So it's not just the mental hurdles. We've got physical ones, or more likely to have these physical ones than people without ADHD.
Yeah,
And people
that's
don't.
surprising actually. I didn't know that the two things were linked.
They can be. I mean, it's just an increased kind of likelihood of us having those things. Um, so not everyone with ADHD will have those things. So, and we have ADHDs have a reduced life expectancy. We know now we have 5 times likelihood of attempting suicide.
Yeah.
It is real and it's hard. And some of the hardest parts about it is that the support isn't there.
No, and the lack of understanding as well. I
Yeah,
think so many people would have a better life overall and a better chance of success if there was just more understanding on what ADHD actually is.
yeah. And I think to everybody, it's just to try and educate yourself. There's some good websites out there.
Yeah.
And what I'll do on this podcast when I release it, I'll put some links to some educational websites, not social media and things like that. It'll be just the factual aspects of things, because that's what's needed.
Yeah.
I mean, with the social media, what do you think about social media and how it does it help us or does it?
No,
Okay.
I think, it's always the influencers that have got thousands of followers and they post something. I'm like, what was that crap? You know, they've almost made ADHD a quirky trend. Oh, I'm impulsive. Oh, I'm distracted by this shiny object. I'm just going to go on holiday. I booked it last night because I've got ADHD. No, that is not. That can be part of ADHD. I mean, I have done things like that myself in the past, but that is not what we suffer with. That's not what takes a toll on everyday life. People that just doing the silly dances, jumping up and bouncing around. I've got extra energy because I've got ADHD. You might have extra energy, but that doesn't help get awareness out there on what we struggle with.
Yeah, I think I like to think that those those kind of posts are put out there from a good place. But I think with what we're trying to do to create awareness, it'll be better for our argument to have more factual, evidence based information out there, so people understand actually what is ADHD and what can it how can it affect our lives. You know, with the stereotype has been bounced around so many times. Oh, I keep losing my keys, and if you're ADHD, if you do this, no, you
Yeah,
don't. If you're ADHD, if you go to a psychiatrist or a clinic and get assessed and everything, that's when you know if you're ADHD or not.
yeah. Or you're
Um,
late because you've got ADHD. I am never late. I get so anxious about being late. I'm always stupidly early,
yes, that's me
you
too.
know. Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'd rather be a half an hour early rather than 2 minutes
Yes.
late.
And sit there
Yeah,
like a plonker by myself, but I'm there and I'm not late.
yep, yep, absolutely. Um, yeah, again, you get a lot, you're always late and things like that because of time awareness. And I get that, but they never really tell you about the opposite of that, of the anxiety behind it, that you go to the other extreme where you always sort of early,
And the
you know.
waiting thing, what I don't know about you, with me, if I've got an appointment, I am waiting about all day for that appointment. I can't do anything else. If I've
Yeah,
got an appointment after work, I'm so anxious at work. I'm like, but what if this happens? What if that happens? What if I'm late? I pace and I wait and I wait and
yeah, it's hard to is yeah, it is hard to commit yourself to doing other things when you've got something important later on, an appointment or whatever it is. It's yeah, it is.
yeah,
It's a weird one.
it
Um,
is.
there
I
are,
don't know
there,
if it's called anything. I'm not sure, but
no, I don't know. There are some where even things that help support us, I don't understand. Um, I know that it works, but I don't understand why. Like, what's it called? Body doubling. Have you heard of body doubling?
no.
So when you get basically, it's body doubling is you're having someone else there with you either in person or online, um, to help you get through whatever you're trying to do, and they don't have to be helping you physically to do things. They're just there, and then while they're there, you're just folding up and putting away the clothes, or you're tidying the house kind of thing. But they're there, and I don't know how it works, but it works so well for me. And
Okay.
I didn't know anything about it. Someone was talking about it. I'm like, what? It doesn't make it. Oh, I do that. I do that already. It's like I struggle right now to do stuff around the house and things like that. But as soon as my son comes back from school, I'm on it. I'll do the dishes. I'll do, the hoovering. I'll put the clothes
Okay.
away, and I find it so much easier when there's someone else here to get things done. I don't know why.
That's interesting. With me, I can't do any form of housework unless I'm listening to music. Just can't do it.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but the second the music starts playing, I am like a whippet. I will do everything.
Oh, that's cool. That's good. As long as you've got a good playlist, that's excellent.
Yeah.
It's when you find out you've got a half an hour playlist, but you've got 45 minutes worth of work to do. You're like, oh, quarter of an hour left, and there's
I
no
know,
more
Penny.
music.
Yeah. It'd be restarting.
Oh dear. Okay, so yeah, social media. It can help us. I hate the fact that we have to go to social media for information and things like that.
Yeah,
I don't think it should have been done. But on the flip side of that, what else have we got? We've got
it's
nothing
true.
else. You get assessed, you get diagnosed, and you only get to that point because you've actually probably been on social media first of all,
Yeah,
um, and then and then once you get diagnosed, it's all right. Okay, see you later. Bye. You got no sort of other backup really. You've got no other support out of that. So you go to social media to then find information about it, and that hopefully will lead you down to get into the right sort of websites and um, the right sort of ADHD UK. There's charity that great information on there. You get to the really good information that you need, but you still have to go through the like social media to get to that stage. Really,
you do. I think in an ideal world, GPs need to be more educated on ADHD, autism, and how it presents because, in actual fact, they don't really know. Um,
no.
Obviously, they know the basics, they do. And my GP is actually fantastic. I could not fault him at all. But the amount of fights, not literally, I'm just putting that out there, I'm not violence. The amount of fights I've had over the years with GPs regarding my own children, and they're so quick to diagnose anxiety and depression. But maybe if they were more educated and they knew more about the presentations of inattentive ADHD, they would hold back and think, hang on a minute, let's just ask these questions, let's find out the root cause, and I think that would save so many people years and years of misdiagnosis and misinformation and being told, stop, like with me, stop overthinking, stop being so dramatic, chill out, just do some deep breathing. Um,
Yeah,
but that's not the case at the moment.
yeah. The being misdiagnosed, and then people, there's the whole ADHD is being overdiagnosed at the moment. And like, well, actually, it's underdiagnosed, and
Yeah,
no one talks about the how the late diagnosed ADHD is, how they've been misdiagnosed throughout their life with other things. You
yeah,
know, don't talk to me
absolutely.
about misdiagnosis until you talk about how I've been misdiagnosed throughout my life
Yeah,
until I've got the right diagnosis.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and I always say, it's not about the diagnosis, it's about the answers. You need the answers to your life. You need to know why your life has been like it is and what to do about it, what can help you. That's what we all need.
Yeah, it's
Having a
all.
diagnosis is not going to be fantastic, brilliant, everything's fine now. But it gives you the answers, and answers is what you need.
Yeah, a lot of people are. I mean, I've spoke to a lot of mums over the years, and they're dead against the diagnosis because they're like, "Why would I stick that label on my child?"
Oh
But
my
for
god.
me, but for me, it has never been like that for me. For me, I want that label on myself, so then that gives me closure and understanding as to why I am the way that I am, and a reasoning, and then you go forward with the knowledge, knowing it's not your fault, it's not anxiety, it's not this, it's not that. With that label, I mean, especially in children, you can do so much to help them with their development, and you can get them support in school, you can put them in the right educational standing. You can't do that without that label.
Yeah, yeah. All I have to say, I guess, was two things really for people who don't want to give a label to the children. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. If they're struggling at home, school, with friends, okay, they will be labeled, whether you like it or they like it or not.
Yeah,
They will be labeled, and they will be labeled being too much, too lazy. Um, they don't try
disruptive.
hard enough, disruptive. All of this, all these things are very negative, and none of them will be great. Okay, they will be labeled. I would rather have a label that explains everything to me and actually provides help and support.
Yeah,
Okay, rather than you ask any late diagnosed ADHDers, how was your life beforehand? How was your education? How was your social standing and your family dynamics? How was that for you? There's a lot of them that will say rubbish. It's
yeah,
horrible. Okay,
horrendous.
just because you don't want to give them a label it doesn't help them. It doesn't mean they're protected and helped, because they are in the lion's den themselves. They are dealing with everything. Okay. So you need, where you can, support them where you can, and get them the right support. And if that's a diagnosis and medication, um, diagnosis and just not medication, but putting strategies in place, depending on the ages and things like that, then that's the better way. Okay.
Yeah, of
You
course.
know, you do what you can, but don't be afraid of this whole label. They will be labeled.
Yeah, as the
I was
naughty child
labeled.
normally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And if,
and me.
yeah, I was labeled into my 50s. And, and you'll then quickly start to label yourself, because when you've been through all of that, when you're going through all of that and been told you're wrong, told to stop, to sit down, to relax, concentrate, all that, constantly. We're not talking once or twice here. We're constantly, daily, every day throughout. Oh man, it's just never ending. You will label yourself those negative things as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
not good enough.
Um, yeah.
You know,
Self
um,
worth will be in the shitter.
pan.
It's
Yeah,
it's not it's not good. I mean, for the people with ADHD who haven't had that and they've had a great life, brilliant, really brilliant. I'm very, very jealous. Um, but there's masses of us who don't have that, who haven't led that life, who will struggle with all those negative things throughout their life because they haven't had support.
can you
Okay.
imagine how life would be? Like, I just, I always think, like, if maybe if I was diagnosed as a child, I could have been a brain surgeon or something. You know, school would have been so different,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
different. Like, what could I have done if?
Absolutely. That's the only thing I think about, because of my age. When I was at school, it wasn't talked about and it wasn't official diagnosis over here. So I don't go back and think, well, what if? But I do think, what would my education would be like? I wasn't disruptive or anything. I was the person in class looking at the teacher, trying to concentrate as hard as I can, but not being able to focus on every word they say. So I never really understood what our task was for that subject.
Yeah,
Um, and the homework, used to being brought in and it was wrong, because I kind of like made it up because I didn't hear what they said, and you get too kind of self-conscious to ask again and again and again, about what the subject is, or to explain it again. But my education was rubbish because no one understood and I didn't understand, but I just couldn't focus on what they were saying. I wasn't like looking around, I wasn't playing with things, I wasn't, annoying anyone else, but it just wasn't sticking in my head because my head was all over the place.
that has brought a few memories back for me as well, because what you're describing was me to a T. I was naughty though as well. Um, but I've never even, that thought's never entered my mind until you said it. But I do remember now taking homework in, and the teacher was like, what's this? This isn't what I asked you to do. I asked you to do it. But in my head, I'd done a really, really good job because I'd done this thing, but it wasn't actually what he asked us to do. Um, and I don't know about you, but with me and my ADHD, I hang on to the so say for example we're having a conversation,
Yeah.
I will hang on to part of the conversation, and then I know I'm going off track now, forgive me, I have got a point. um, and then a few days later, I'll mention it again, and they're like, what, you got that bit of information from that whole conversation? And I'm like, yeah, that's the bit that stuck with me. And that was what it was like at school. Like, a teacher could say so much stuff, I would hang on to the little bit, and then in my head make this whole thing up about this little bit that it said, and that was what I had to do, but it wasn't.
Yeah. 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 That's the one thing you actually remember for whatever reason. That's the one thing and it might have been interesting for you, or
Yeah.
something, oh, that's kind of interesting. And you start to like think that about that for a little bit, completely ignoring and, everything
The
else that's going
vast.
on.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It wasn't, there was a whole conversation on one subject. We touched on one thing for 5 seconds, and that 5 seconds is what I've hung on to from that whole conversation.
Yeah.
You know,
And it's hard because everything kind of like disappears around you. Everything gets quieter and muffled and quieter, and all you've got is that thought in your head, and then the other thought in the head, and then the other thought in the head. But everything else is kind of like, It's like, I remember going to, I think it was to the doctors, and I remember we're going to talk about something, and I needed to focus hard, and I need to know, I need to understand, I need to listen to and I had in my head, right, okay, concentrate, really concentrate. And after that, he told me I come out thinking I haven't got a clue because all I had in my head was concentrate. That's me saying
Yeah,
concentrate,
yeah,
which was so loud in my head that I had no idea what they said. And you just think, I've done it again. I've just done it again. And yeah, I'm a failure. Yeah, I haven't accomplished something. I'm not good enough. Why am I here? You know, we don't need these labels. Okay, we want positivity. We want something positive to help us. That's what we need.
yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
So what do you think? Before we go, what do you think? One thing that we could do or society could do to change this, I guess, silence part of the ADHD. To bring that out to the people.
I think in an ideal world, like I said, I think GPs should be more educated. I think there should be, the NHS as a whole. I know the NHS is overrun. I know there's not finance to do anything, but if you were to ask me what I think would be perfect, there needs to be more understanding of the issues that people with ADHD suffer, and it's not just bouncing off the walls, it's not just being impulsive. And I think people should be careful about sharing things that aren't correct. Social media has taken over our lives now. Um, and a lot of posts that I see, they're portraying ADHD to be this cool and quirky thing that everyone's got, and it's exciting and it's fun. It's not. It's something that so many people struggle with, and so many people have gone years being misdiagnosed. And I think, some creators should take accountability and ownership that if they have got a big following, post the correct information,
Yeah,
because people hang on to that and use it as gospel, and they shouldn't, but they do, and that's the world that we live in.
yeah.
So I just
You have
think,
to be.
mindfulness, just be mindful of what you're posting.
Yeah, you've got to be. I think it's the right thing to do. I'm try to be very mindful of what I say and how I say things on the podcast. And no doubt I might have got it wrong somewhere along the line. I'm quite happy to be pulled up and correct myself and things like that. And my I guess my how think and approach ADHD is different now than it was right at the very beginning of my journey because my knowledge was, you know, wasn't there then.
Yeah,
But yeah, you got to be sort of sensible, and you got to understand that not everything is down to the ADHD. Some of it is to do with life with ADHD, and some of it might be a comorbid condition that's just you just happen to have as well along with your ADHD. The things that I struggle with, I miss words. Okay, I forget words, and I really struggle. I've got a whole list of things, all my questions up there on one screen. I've got everything written down with words that I know I'm going to forget and things like that all in front of me. Um, and that isn't ADHD. It's exacerbated by ADHD because of how my brain is working and struggling to find words, and my mind is going very quickly and my mouth can't keep up and all the rest. But it's not my ADHD. So I can't say it's my ADHD. My
yeah,
ADHD, I forget words and I've got ADHD. No, it's something separate.
yeah.
So you
And
got to give the
trauma as well. I think
yeah,
trauma can, we touched on it earlier. It, it, the ADHD might, it might exacerbate. I can't even say that word now. Um, it might, like with things that have happened in my life and the way that I am, that I don't know whether that's ADHD or whether that's just me or a bit of both. But I think everybody's got trauma, and that does shape who you are,
yeah,
as well as having the ADHD, which then it's just like it's this never ending. We've all got things, haven't we?
absolutely. And life will shape you. Things that you go through shape you. Like trauma will shape you. ADHD will shape you. Everything is combine it all, and that's your life. And you don't have to say everything is ADHD. It's just I'm ADHD, and this is all the things I struggle with. Not all of it's
Yeah.
to do with ADHD, but these are the things I struggle with. Um, and as long as you put it over correctly and you make sure you're not giving false information, and looking at the right websites for the right information about everything, that's the main thing. I say that I think
Yeah.
that the it's coming from a good place, but I think we do need to be mindful about that message that we're putting over, because our fight is we want it to be understood,
Yeah.
and so we need to get the right information over and not
And
sort of downplay it.
yeah, and for me also, I do feel very strongly that, mums of teenage girls especially, there's so many teenage girls that have been diagnosed with anxiety, put on medication, referred to CAMS, you know, especially with teenagers again, self-harming, making themselves sick. That can show up in ADHD. That's very, very common in ADHD. And I just kind of want to say, if your daughter is struggling, if she is, anxious, struggling to focus, feeling exhausted all the time, feeling drained, please just look into ADHD as a possible. I know that teenagers do suffer with anxiety, but I do believe that in some cases it is not anxiety they're struggling with, it is ADHD, and I think that needs to be explored.
And yeah, you shouldn't rule anything out. You need to go down that rabbit hole, I guess. You need to explore, and see what you feel fits
Yeah,
the best, um, and then sort of like it goes to your GP, or wherever it is, and sort of work on it and be assessed and get more information on it. But don't dismiss anything, until you've gone and looked at everything, and the child, your daughter, needs to have input as well regarding how
yeah,
they feel, because it's great you seeing things, it's great me seeing things, but it makes it a lot easier when you're getting feedback from the child that you're trying to support,
yeah.
um, and not just as parents, but as clinicians and doctors, they need to listen to what the child says as well, not just what the parent says.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely, yeah,
so it's there's a lot going on, but we need to listen more. We need to
yeah.
listen more, let people explain more, and listen more.
And
Um,
I think as parents, I don't know about you, but I'm a fixer. Tell me what's wrong, let's fix it. And I've really had to take a step back with my daughter because she's like, Mum, I just want you to listen. I'm like, okay. And that's been really difficult for me, because it doesn't come natural to me. Um, but I
yeah,
think, just listen to them. Just try and keep your mouth shut. I mean, I struggle with that really badly. um, and just
me
listen to
too.
what they're saying and let them
Yeah,
finish,
yeah, yeah.
you know.
But we've got a long way to go, I think, as society, to really sort of helping and supporting the right people. It'll be lovely if we can rectify everything and help us as the late diagnosed people as well. But I think in reality, the support is gonna come for the younger generation, and it's our children, who would benefit from all of this.
And I hope
Um,
it does. I hope that it does catch up.
yeah, yeah. I just don't understand how it's been there, for so long, hundreds of years in the medical world and journals. It's been there, and it's really been, researched massively, um, and the facts are there, the proof and all that is all there, but still society gets it wrong, so wrong. Doesn't make
Yeah,
any sense.
definitely.
Okay, well, thank you, Gemma. Thank you for coming on. It's been really, really lovely, talking to you.
It's been
It's
nice talking to you. I hope I didn't sound like a heartless bitch. I do say some things sometimes. I'm like, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that out loud.
No, not at all. It's Look, this is a podcast about people with ADHD. Don't hold back. Be you. It is ADHD. I don't want it to be polished. I want you to say whatever you say, and how you say it, because that is you and it's part of your story. You know. whether you come on here with lots of knowledge about ADHD and all the best ideas and things, or whether you come on here with no knowledge whatsoever, doesn't matter. It's
Yeah,
your journey, and this is all about sharing your own journey. Um, you know, everyone's got a story. You know,
they have.
we don't know it until we listen, and this
It's
is all about
true.
the listen to people's stories. So,
Yeah, no, thank you for inviting me on.
no, that's been
Yeah,
great.
I've really enjoyed it. I've never really spoken openly about my ADHD before. That's weird, isn't it?
Well, to be fair, no, because it's hard when you haven't got people who are going through the same kind of thing, and the same type of struggles. It's hard to talk to people who don't get it. You're
Yeah,
forever being told that you're wrong, you're not good enough, and what is wrong with you, and all this. Like, do you want to open up with that? Do you want to go, oh
mm,
yeah, let me tell you my deepest,
darkest.
dark,
Yeah,
yeah, to then get response that's going to knock you back. I'm like, no. But when
yeah,
you end up talking to people who do have ADHD, um, then I find personally that there's so much more acceptance straight away. You know, it's almost like it's kind of weird asking all these questions and finding out about yourself and me explaining about myself, but at the same time, we can have a conversation without having to explain anything, and we'll just have a conversation and we'll get on, and we'll, if you're going off on one, being hyper vocal, and I'm forgetting my words, and we're going off in tangent, it will just be natural, be normal, we'll find, and we would just sort of deal with it and accept it, because
yeah,
that's who we are. We know all that. We don't have to explain ourselves. Um, but at the same time, this is a podcast, so I need to ask questions and stuff. So, but but yes, we want the truth out there, and I want people to be who they really are when they come onto the show. So, I mean, you've been great. It's been lovely having you on, and
thank
hearing
you.
your story.
Thank you.
And for everybody, thank you for listening. It's always nice to know you guys are out there. Um, but be good, be kind, and remember, you're not alone. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.